Right, we had to stop ourselves from talking off camera because we're here for our peppermint tea coffee chat, and we've just got a lot of interesting things to discuss today, and we want to discuss it with you as the audience, a part of the discussion with us, because I am absolutely going to make it clear neither Brice or myself are pretending we know anything. We haven't got any intel. We're having a discussion in terms of how we sort of open our eyes to what's going on. And particularly today, we're going to be talking again about Kate Middleton, what's going on there. We're going to be talking about the Baltimore Bridge, and we're going to be talking about P. Diddy as much as we can to keep compliant on this platform. And the reason we're bringing this all in together is because part of this sort of great awakening for all of us is, I'm going to come on to the reticular activating system, but you get, as part of, as Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. All of us in this community have changed the way we look at things, and as such, the things we look at have changed. But it's getting that balance, isn't it, right, Brice, between looking at it for awareness and how can we move forward with this, rather than being drawn into the gossip mongering side of things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was saying to you off camera, I think we all know that the story that they're giving us, especially with Kate, is not the true story. Now, with that being said, what people do and choose to do in their marriages or choose to do behind closed doors, as long as they're not hurting anybody, then whatever. But there's a lot of other things happening around the Kate Middleton story at the same time.
Yeah.
Thomas Kingston, weird bruises showing up on William's neck. There's just all these weird things that are also, they could be totally separate incidents. I don't think so, though. And so I was saying to you, Catherine, what upsets me is that when we talk about law and order and justice, when a crime has been committed, especially to the detriment of somebody else's life,
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be law and order. There needs to be justice. Human life is valuable. Life and animal life is valuable. Life is valuable. And if somebody else makes the decision to unalive another person, that's not okay. Right. And so, and I'm trying to be careful with the
Yeah.
algorithms, guys, with YouTube, with what I think you guys get what I'm hinting at. And so, and I'm also, we've talked about this before, Catherine. We're gonna call Kate Kate and Catherine so we don't get them mixed up. I had to clarify that on a couple shows talking about Catherine
Yeah.
Wells, and I was like, not our friend Catherine, other cat, the Catherine in the royal family. Um, you know, we talk a lot about like black and white and painting things black and white, and that's not a good thing. And I think especially when people first start to like wake up to these different, we'll say these different religions in the world and their religious practices, we get real mad and we just want to go vigilante. But the truth is way more complicated. And a lot of these people who are in these families are married into these families, might be innocent and might be in a situation that they can't get out of. And thank God we're not in that situation. We were saying off camera, and I said I might have said a little bit too much with the Tamara video, which it's already out there now. I feel very emotionally drawn to this because of my great 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 grandfather. He was in this situation too. And we were saying, as you were saying, Catherine, before we went on camera, if you choose to be an actor and go into Hollywood, there's some free will choice there.
Yeah.
But when you're born into these families, or you find yourself married into these families and you have children, you share children with a member of this particular religious sect, we'll say, it changes things for you. And I have more, regardless of what's happening with Kate, I have so much empathy and compassion for her as a woman
Yeah.
and as a mother. So
Yeah. And I think why we wanted to sort of bring these three together is because they're three really sort of public things that are on all our mind. And I don't have the answers to them. I've got my own theories, and those theories will probably change over the next few weeks and months based on as new information comes out. But one of the key things that I wanted to highlight, so we're talking about the Kate Middleton situation. We're talking about the Baltimore Bridge situation, and we're talking about P. Diddy. And what I think draws them all together is they're all very significant in their own right. But for me also, Brice, what really hits home to me, all of us as a community have been talking for years, depending when we think we woke up, and we can talk about what that actually means. And well, let's talk about that now, because for me, as soon as any single person pretends they've got the absolute answer, unless you're the person involved, then you've lost the critical thinking. So there's something in our brains called the reticular activating system. And without going into too much detail, it's one of the things that's very responsible for consciousness and how we see and make sense of the world. And I had an example. It's a really awful example, but cutting it very brief. A few years ago, I've got lots of cats, and someone who was helping me with the horses came back from work before I did, and she found one of the cats had just been run over on the drive, and it was a black cat, and I have 4 black cats at the time. And she phoned me up and she said, Pumpkin's just been run over. I think he's dying. Shall I rush him to the vets? Because I was still at work. I said, yes, please do. I'll meet you at the vets. So when I got to the vets, I had been told that my cat Pumpkin, that she'd seen him being run over, she'd put him in a box, taken him to the vets, and he was there in the vets and had just been pronounced dead, this black cat curled up. So when I walked into the vets and saw this black cat curled up and the vet saying, I'm so sorry, he's gone, there was no bit of me that didn't think that was Pumpkin in the box. So then I phoned up my husband, hysterical, saying Pumpkin's been, long story, because I had been set, the stage had been set to me that that was Pumpkin, and Pumpkin's a black cat. There's some similarity, but it was very different. Long story short, it turned out it was my neighbour's cat, and my neighbour's cat's got short black fur and Pumpkin's got long black fur. But because I had been told, that's what my brain saw. And I didn't think to question it, because there was no reason for me to question it. And he wasn't stretched out, it was curled up in a box. So, I couldn't really see the cat very well. But this is what happens with us. And this is why we're so easy to brainwash as humans. And I do not believe you get this with animals. I don't actually know whether animals have reticular activating systems, but animals rely far more dominantly on their sense of smell and the other senses than their sight. And so our sight can easily mislead us, because our eyes aren't making the analysis, our brain is. And if we've had another message put into our brain. So I've spoken to loads of people who aren't in this community about the Cape Middleton. They 100%, they don't know anything about CGI. They don't know even it's a thing. We forget that it's this community that understands that, but a lot of the general public don't. And they have got no reason to question it. So when they see it, that's what they see. They see Cape Middleton on a bench or in a photograph or whatever. It's only once you've started to deprogram and get that part of your brain to ask different questions that you start to see the possibilities of other things open up.
Oh, that's such a good, that's the predictive programming, right? That they're going to put an idea out there. We see this, on a grander scale, with some movies in Hollywood, and, and even in the truther community, we see predictive programming. I've, spent so many years in India working on my own self and trying to see my own, truth through the illusion. And then when I got into, all of a sudden all this stuff comes out in the exterior world about what's really going on. And then there was a time where I felt like I was being lulled back to sleep. Like I'd worked on myself for so long, all this stuff becomes apparent. It matches the law of one. And then all these spiritualists on the truth world are like lulling you back to sleep and putting you in the junk conspiracy cul-de-sac. And that's when I started speaking out and saying things to you like, I don't think the truther community is actually awake. I think that's another arm of the controllers. And started, thank God for that. But I think that, and when we're dealing with precarious things like Cape Middleton, because we have to be very careful about going too far over into another illusion. The truth for me, what I believe is something is going on. Something is going on. I don't think that Kate is okay. I don't know. I don't think she's gone, like on from the earth. I think she's still here, but I don't think she's okay. And I agree, Catherine. I don't know if we spoke about this on air or before we recorded, but I don't think like Diana again that you were saying. I don't think Kate. I agree. I don't think she really knew. Kate's my age.
Yeah,
she's even older than me, my age. And people can argue, well, her uncle was at their island in the Mediterranean that's kind of notorious for some religious practices. We'll say, well, so
yeah.
How many aunts and uncles do you have that you don't know everything about? Like that doesn't mean You know, that's where we have to be careful with the
People don't
discernment.
even know their own husbands. Sorry I didn't mean to interrupt, but so many of my friends are divorced, and 9 times out of 10 with the divorce, they're completely blindsided. They might have been with this person for 30 years and they can't believe the person, both sides, not just men and women, they can't believe, no one goes into marriage thinking it's going to go disastrously wrong. So when you think we don't even know someone that we've shared an intimate life with for years often, and they can do something completely that you would never believe that person would do, you can't know what your extended family are going to be doing. You can't possibly know. And look at HP Judah and how convincing and manipulative these people can be, because they're very well aware of what image they need to present to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And like from Kate Middleton's perspective, again, she's my age. So we were growing up at the same time. We were born into a world where there was no internet. You know, we played outside. She, like me, went to very demanding schools. I know what her academic life was like. She was studying all the time, trying to keep up with this prestigious school that she's going to because of the Middleton family is a very wealthy family. There's a lot of pressure there. I guarantee you, as a teenager or a girl in her young 20s, she wasn't even thinking about what her uncle was doing. Also, she's meeting boys. I mean, taking William out of it. Like, you're a young girl in your 20s, you're at college, university, you're dating, you're meeting boys, you're going out, you're experiencing, you're becoming an adult. She wasn't thinking about what is uncle doing on those islands. I don't even know where I have no biological uncles. My dad had 2 sisters. My mom has 3 sisters. I don't know where my aunts are today. I mean, they're alive. I know they're alive, but well, one has passed away, but I don't know what they're doing today.
Of course not.
Some of them might be traveling right now. I don't know. I don't know where my cousins are.
No.
I have their phone numbers. I can call them. So let's kind of reground ourselves, and that's what empathy is, right? It's having empathy. It's putting yourself in somebody else's shoes to understand it, to try to understand a situation better so you can have compassion for them. You know, you know, when you're poor and you do weird stuff, you're just a weirdo. When you're rich and you do weird stuff, you're considered eccentric.
Yeah.
She would have seen like, oh, my family's wealthy. That's just my weird uncle.
Yeah.
Without even having any, and especially if you're not somebody who's going to want to hurt somebody else. That's not in your cognitive reality to want to do something that's going to hurt somebody else. You're not thinking other people are doing that either, right?
It's why so much of the abuse happens into the home, isn't it? Because most people, if you're going to be that way abused, it's normally, the statistics show it's absolutely normally by someone you know. And that's why you trust them, because you do think you know them, and no one would think someone they love would do something like that to them. So and that's why the parents often don't know, because the parents know these people. They might be relatives, they might be best friends, they could be teachers, whatever. The whole point is, if it was that obvious, these things would never happen. The whole point.
And that's what manipulation is, right? Manipulation is you don't know you're being manipulated. That's what manipulation is until you're out of the situation. Then manipulation would not be called, it would just be called lying if it were obvious. But it's so insidious, and you're right, you do. And I want to say, like, people talked about her fingers being wrapped up. Well, we were talking about this, and I'll be careful how we say this. I know YouTube, but with eating, when there's a bad relationship with food, I'm trying to be careful. I don't know what the algorithms, when you do that over and over and over and over again, there are some things that happen to versus just not eating, right? There's different. So the face will swell a little bit, and you will have scars on your fingers from the vial, from hitting your teeth just over and over and over again. And I'll tell you guys a funny story. I have 2 scars on my fingers right here. And because my boyfriend was not aware that actually happens, that you scar yourself. And I had known that just from studying. I've never been this thing, but I'm curious by psychology. And I was laughing. I was like, yeah, I've had people ask me, because I have 2 scars on my fingers. I know you can't see them, because my fingers, when I was a little kid, we were going to get a Christmas tree. And I was little, and I got out of the truck, my dad's truck, and I was getting down, and my hand was gripping the door, and my sister shut the door. And it slammed, and it actually like shattered these. So I have scars on my fingers from that. And I've had people question me on whether that's from this, because it's typically, and I was like, no, was just from holding the car of the truck. So Now, what if, so she's been seen with wraps around these fingers multiple times, and I have no idea. We know she's a very thin woman. I think she's probably naturally pretty thin.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when you look at pictures of her at university and everything, she's incredibly slim. Yeah.
Her
But
mom, her mom's tall and thin.
yeah,
We know that disorders like that typically come from a sense of an emotional struggle where
mm,
you're trying to control, like you feel like your life is out of control. And so, and this is making it very simplistic. So the one thing you can control is what you put in or what you release out. Does
very
that make
similar
sense?
to Diana.
Mhm.
Which we don't know if this is the case, but
No,
very,
no.
she could just be looking a lot thinner because the cancer diagnosis is real. But there's enough to question, and what I'm looking at with it is absolutely empathy for her. Whatever is or isn't going on, but equally, there's no way to me. It's like we've had so many discussions over the last few years about trying to understand why certain people supported the jibby jab and things like this. And when you go into the key rule is anytime you have to go into over justifying something, then there's an issue. Now, with that video of her coming out and doing that, there are so many red flags on that issue. As we've said multiple times, Brice, the deep state might be one thing, but stupid isn't one of them. So there are so many ways. So you could have shot that video in a studio and Prince William could have been with her, which would have been much more difficult, particularly since she praised him in that. Or they could show a few out clips of the production crew round it. But there's nothing. There's literally nothing. So when you're making that video to die down claims, because everyone's saying, where's Kate? Is she alive or not? Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. There's so many ways they could have dispelled that so easily. And for some reason, and we don't really know what the reason is, they've chosen not to. And then if we take the big C diagnosis and we look that Fergie, Prince Andrew's ex, and Charles have both got that. And we were talking about this off camera. Charles is a very holistic. I
Yeah,
know a
that I
friend
knew.
personally that goes to the same Ayurvedic healing center in India as him and Camilla. They don't know him, but they know they've been there, and the doctors know him very well. The doctor who works there, who's an amazing Vedic practitioner, was at the coronation and things like that. That's how close they are, because that's how long he's been going for. So you've got this whole other issue that feeds into it, Brice, about they're looking at bringing out a big C jibby jab. You've got one prominent member who everyone absolutely adores, because I don't think I've ever met anyone that doesn't like Catherine. Perhaps Meghan Markle, but apart from that, but we'll come on to that because that's another subject for discussion. But everyone loves her. I mean, really, everyone loves her. What's not to love? And then you've got Charles, and you've got these two completely different approaches, which really worries me because they're not going to let both of those be successful. Let's just put it that way. By they, the powers that be. It's not in. It amazes me that it's coming out so publicly that Charles is going down the alternative route, because unfortunately we all know big media and big pharma do not want that route to be shown to be successful. So it could be a disaster for the industry if he is successful, if any of it's true, if any of them have got the big C, which
That's the big question too. We don't know what the truth is. We don't know. We just know there's a facade, that they've been showing us a facade, and we don't know what the truth is.
And we'll
And
probably never know. With all these things we're talking about, why would we ever know? Because we've not known for sure. We still don't know for sure about Diana. We still don't. I mean, we've all got theories and we've all got things that we think we know is true, but it's not proven.
yeah, and that we have to remember that it's not proven yet, so it's still just a theory. And I think too, somebody brought that up as well on one of the other normie channels I was listening to, that I was shocked that they were kind of going down this road, where they said, this is scary for the royal family, because this is Diana all over again, in the sense that they're realizing that the public likes Kate more than them,
Absolutely.
and
And
relate
they
more to
don't
Kate.
like that.
They don't like that.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Brice, because I think you'll have a wider perspective on this than me, being American. So what's really surprised me, and I'm not up to date with watching what's been put out on mainstream, but I've just seen bits that really I've seen on X, to be quite honest. I still call it Twitter. But Brice, you've got some real big media stars, like what's that guy who we all think is deep state? One of
Yeah,
your
Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, Anderson Cooper. So we've got all the stories that have been coming out about Anderson Cooper and his mother.
Yeah, the
So
Vanderbilts.
he
Yep.
is, for me, I'd been brainwashed to thinking he is definitely deep state. Okay. And yet he's coming out mocking the Kate situation and saying, "Where's Kate?"
Yeah.
So how does
That's a
it
good
play out?
question, because
That
I
looks
always assumed he was as well, because he works for CNN
Hmm.
and he is who his mother is. But again, taking my own advice, I don't know him
No, nor do I.
very well. He could very well be a very good person that has been born into a very shitty situation. And you're right. And the funny thing too is, I was actually saying, I don't know if I said this on camera or off camera with Tamara, America, I mean, we know about the royal family, we see them, we know who they are, kind of, but they're not like the people who puppet us are like the Kardashians.
Yes.
So, because we, especially my generation, we were like, as I've laughed before, I mean, if you see the play Hamilton, they talk about this, that the Declaration of Independence was like the most epic breakup letter that was ever. And I love phrasing it that way. It was a breakup letter. And then there was a war that happened. And if you ever see Hamilton, the funniest character in that play is the guy who plays King George.
Mm.
The way they play him, and it's funny because you look at it at the sense of a breakup, right?
Yeah.
And so with that being said, growing up for me and a lot of kids in my generation, the Zennials, the elder millennials, we were raised to be proud of the fact that we believed, like Mr. T kind of brought this back up, and I didn't know this until Mr. T kind of pointed out. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It's treason for an American president or an American in general to bow to the monarchy. That's considered treason, because we believe all are equal. So just to give people who are not in America kind of a perspective, we know who the royal family is. We know Prince William, we know Kate Middleton, we know who they are, but we're not like that invested. Like, because if you look at all the normie channels, they're having to go and figure out, like, wait, who is Kate again? Who is she married to again?
Yeah, they completely. They
They
just
they don't, they have to look, they just know it's weird. So the fact, you guys, the fact that American stations are so focused on this is strange too, and honestly strange.
People that have been labeled by this community as definitely being on the dark side are actually coming out and ridicule, because if they were really, if he was really what he's been set up to say, he would be in on the no.
You guys are crazy. You're just crazy conspiracists. Of course, that was.
So the fact that they're building into the conspiracy theorists, it puts another interesting dilemma. And then if you talk about Meghan and Harry, and we're not going to spend the whole thing, it's not about the royals, guys. It's about the fact that all this stuff, for those that can see there's something wrong, we don't know exactly what's wrong. We just know there's something very wrong and we're being misled. But yet again, they're still sort of getting away with it. And it's like all these people who sort of say, oh, well, they can't do that. It's illegal. Well, it's all illegal.
Everything they do is illegal. Yeah.
Possibly still walking the streets. Barack Obama was over last week in the UK meeting our Prime Minister. Explain that, folks.
And let me just, for the people who are not Americans, why that's so bad is because after a president has served 2 terms and legally cannot stay in the office, he goes into retirement.
Yeah.
So Barack Obama, unless he's doing a podcast on his own out of his basement, is not a working politician anymore legally. There's no need for him to be over talking to the prime minister. It wasn't like a freaking Christmas dinner and they're just having friends and family over. No, it was
they're not even all friends, because this is a new little weasel, and that's an insult to weasels, by the way. I mean, prime minister's awful. I love weasels. Don't love the minister. But there's so many weird things. But what gets me, what concerns me, although I'm not going down the fear boat, is that even once you start seeing these things not adding up, there's so many different things that don't add up. Like, you can look at the Meghan and Harry situation and them going off to America in so many different ways. You can look at it that she's his handler and she's a precocious, ungrateful brat, which is definitely very possible. I mean, again, I've never met the woman. Or you could look at it that she's taken one for the boys, in that she's taken all the hit to get him and their children away from this royal family. And I don't know which of that it is. However, I have been in personal situations, which I explained to Brice before, where I've had to act like a complete brat to get out of a difficult situation. because it was the only way to get a certain person away from other people. So there's so many different scenarios in all of this, and I certainly don't know what the truth is, and we've all got our own theories. But linking it into the Baltimore Bridge side of things, and I think everyone should go and have a look at Lara Logan on X. And again, they're really gunning for Lara Logan at the moment, and she says it very eloquently herself. You can tell how near to the mark you are by how much you're getting people go for you. But just listen to what she says about the Baltimore and the implications of that on America, because how long have some very credible people that have been pointing out what's happening in America saying they're going to start bringing down the infrastructure, they're going to cripple the country? Because if people are poor, if they're starving, if they can't work, if they can't get access to medical care, you are completely controllable. It's the Hunger Games all over again.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And I love that you said that, because you and every time I get shadow banned, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
yes, I'm right.
Yeah.
So I laugh about that now. You know, and I want to point this out too. You know, we have this idea for some reason that the good guys are in control of everything. No, they're not. Y'all, people in this group, this religious group, will say part of their religion is service to self. To
Yeah.
capitulate, to surrender, is service to others. They're not going to do that. They're going to fight till the bitter end. But how clever of them, to put a Trojan horse in to make you believe that the good guys are actually in charge. How clever of them. So just be aware of that. If something feels wrong, it's probably wrong. And even though and you're right, Catherine, I don't know if we'll ever have all the answers. I don't personally need to know the trauma that Kate Middleton and her children have been through. I don't personally need to know that. That's her private business. That's their private business, and that's their private healing that they'll need to go on. As a human being, though, I want justice for the innocent. Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing too, Catherine. I think you're right. Like, I love that saying, like, sometimes you have to be the villain in somebody else's story in order to find peace in your own.
I think you do. Tomorrow, Shanti and I are talking about the 4 agreements in the Great Awakening, because it's a really interesting dilemma. My friend this morning, who's incredibly wise, and just I keep trying to persuade her to come onto one of these chats with us because she's got so much good stuff to share. But she was saying it's like the Buddhist principle. With all this information, how do we take it without feeding into the loosh, without feeding into the drama? And she put it so beautifully, like the Buddhists say, it's awareness without attachment, which we talk about. So it's, you've quoted many times, it's about being able to entertain an idea without being attached to it. And this is something I'm practicing big time, because I can't, you know, as you say, in a lot of respects, it's none of my business. There's so many different scenarios with Kate, but I do think it's really important to question, because we know from whatever history might or might not be right, that the most dangerous thing that good people can do is have an invitation and say and do nothing. And I would rather be mocked, as I am massively. I mean, I've been mocked massively this week in the real world for saying I do not believe that's really Kate on video and things, and it's nothing to do with being unsympathetic about cancer. Completely the opposite.
It's sympathetic. It's
Genuine concern as to whether she's okay. And if she is okay, it's very easy for them to show that. It's very easy for them to come out. She could be sitting there with her mother. Even if she doesn't want to sit there, they could. There's so many different ways they could come out and prove that. And the fact that they haven't gives me great cause for concern. Similarly, with the bringing it into, why is it relevant to bring it in with the brig catch? It's like, look, when you look, I absolutely believe there's good people, call them white hats if you want to, that are putting up a huge fight, because if not, we would already be in our 15-minute cities. We would already have the vaccine passports. We'd already have. So we're delaying it. And Australia, I think, have just had digital ID has gone through their parliament, David was saying. So Ireland, they tried to put it through and they fought back. So I absolutely know there's good people. I am not saying there's not white hats.
Yeah,
What
where's the white hat? Yeah.
Is that to people to sit there and say it's all over, everyone's a gitmo, it's all just a movie, is, you know, you will be in the Hunger Games. You will be.
Yeah.
You will be.
Again, how clever of them to make you think that, right? And that's the thing too. I wanna remind people that there's no honor amongst thieves. So what we're seeing too, like I would never throw Catherine under the bus. I mean, listen, Catherine, we've been through so much together on this. We would never throw each other under the bus. I know that.
Yeah.
But the other side will.
Yeah.
So we look at the P. Diddy situation. I don't think that's a white hat move. I think that's them throwing one of their own under the bus
Yeah.
to distract us. They
Yeah.
will turn on each other. And even when the P. Diddy thing happened, somebody said, I forgot, was it my boyfriend? Someone said, is this just a distraction from Kate Middleton?
Yeah, and even I think that's such a good point, because even like, what we're seeing is the Epstein P. Diddy's, they're rife, they're everywhere, the abuse that so many of these stars have been through. And I'm afraid again, every scientific experiment, everyone likes to be the one that sits there and says, no, I wouldn't be there. And some people have demonstrated that through this pandemic thing. Some people have really put their necks on the line.
Yeah.
And really lost everything through standing up for their principles, particularly the doctors that have stood up to things, and the politicians like Andrew Bridgeton in the UK. Incredible what these people have done and been through. But equally, until all of us are tested, we might like to think we behave, but again, people crumble way easier. So all the scientific experiments, I can't remember the name of it, they put them in there and they say, turn the electric current up, and they turn them up, and they've got these screamings, and they do it because they say they were told to do it. So the reality of the fact is most humans are not as brave or honorable as they think they are. And that's not a criticism. It's just a
It's just
fact.
reality. It's just
It's a
reality. We have to
reality
be,
that people break because our
look at the,
self-preservation is so strong. Is someone saying, look at what happens in war? Sorry, I just talked over you, Brice. But in war, everyone who's been to war, particularly what I would call the old warfare, like the First and Second World War, where there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat, it's kill or be killed. The survival instinct is very strong. Most people, when they're put in that situation, will kill another and able to be killed. I don't eat meat, but I'm not under any delusion. If my family and I were starving, I'd probably be going out trying to catch the rabbits. I don't know, but I very much suspect I would be.
And that goes back to like when we're putting people in these situations that we all think it's just so easy. Why doesn't Kate Middleton just speak? Why doesn't this? Why doesn't that? Are you really that? Think about what these people are put under. And yeah, I obviously P. Diddy, there's issues. He has victims, and so I am glad that there is awareness for the victims. But again, they will throw their own under the bus to save themselves. And he is an A-list celebrity here in the United States. He's not some D-list celebrity. He's a big one. He's a big fish to throw out. So we look here, not there,
Yeah.
right? And we look at like Kate Middleton, we look at even Meghan Markle potentially. We look at a lot of these people in these situations. They have what? Children.
Children. Yeah.
And I'm not a parent, but I am a human being. And I know, Catherine, you're a parent. I don't know any parent that they will take the hits in order to
completely.
protect their children.
Anything. You'll do anything to do what you can to protect your children. Literally anything.
Even in the wild animals, a mother bear will murder you in
Absolutely.
a second if you try to touch her cub. You
Yeah.
know, and that was when we the last dog rescue we did in India with the mother dog, and nobody knew who her puppies were. She'd hidden her puppies. And the minute we were feeding the mother, and we thought her puppies must have died. You could tell she had just given birth though. And the minute she started to kind of nudge us towards the tunnel, she showed us. That's when we knew she trusted us, because she showed us her puppies.
Yeah.
And then we were able to bring all of them to the United States and get them in neighboring homes so they see each other. But yeah, mothers will do anything to make sure that their children are safe and secure. And so you think about that with Kate. She's got these beautiful 3 children. It makes me emotional because they're around my nephew and niece's ages, and the horrors that those kids, because they are not married into this family. They are this family. So she's got to continue this. Anybody who's been through family court, been through divorce, knows it's brutal when it comes to custody issues.
Awful. There's never it's so rare to have an amicable situation with that. It's so rare. I mean, unfortunately,
she's going up against the royal family.
Yeah.
Their grandfather is the king.
Mm.
Let that sink in for a moment of what that woman has been through as a mother, what Diana went through as a mother. and so we have to, with these families, I think the biggest lesson to be, if we can't judge we can't throw everybody into the same group. We have to look at each individual case fairly.
And
As
I've heard you talk about this, Brice, but I wanted to hear your opinion on this. So you hear so many people saying she knew what she was getting into. Diana knew what she was getting into. No one does. So I will take it back again. Think through, everyone watching this, think about your own personal family and friends. Look at how many people are divorced. Look at how many people have got into a relationship with an abuser, whether that be a sexual relationship, whether it be a work relationship, whether it be a friendship. This is why we talk about this so much, because most people watching this will have had some experience of being in an abusive relationship of some sort. And the reality is of course you didn't see it going in. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Your mind is in a different place now. When you look back on events, now you can say, oh, I should have seen that warning sign. Oh, my friends. I mean, one of my friends said it to me today on a voice message. I won't say who, because they're very well known, but they said to me, they said, this is happening in my life, and my God, you said this would come back and bite me, and it has. But you can't see it at the time. None of us can see it. That wasn't me being clever. I could see it because I wasn't emotionally attached to that situation. If I was in her situation, I probably wouldn't have seen it. So
Yes,
it's
and
not
love
what
is
one
blind when it
said
comes to
does it.
relationships. Love is blind a lot. And y'all think about this. She met him when I mean, again, she's my age. William, when he was younger, was a stud. He was good
Yeah.
looking. He looked like his mom. And here she is. She meets this guy, and he's good looking, he's rich, and he's a prince. Of course, the years when they were dating or courting or whatever, they're not going to roll out the religious services in front of her, are they?
No, of course
No,
not.
or her parents. And think about it that way. How many people have gotten in the situation that even though Kate's family was wealthy, independently wealthy, how many opportunities
Mm.
have been now given to her siblings, her nieces and nephews, her parents, because of her? It's not just her,
Mm.
right? It's the family too. That how do you, and not only that, but if we'll just say, let's say this is an abusive relationship, whether it's him or it's the family, whatever, it's the religion, whatever. I've been through that, but mine wasn't all over the cover of magazines.
Exactly.
I can't imagine going through some of the most horrid horror that you go through and having it on as front page gossip.
Horrendous, absolutely horrendous, because you can't come out and tell the truth. There is nowhere for these people to go. I don't think, we've seen it time and time again. Without saying too much, look at how many whistleblowers, and I don't know what's happening with Kate. I do not know. So I'm not saying this is a like for like example, but we could all name so many whistleblowers. Look at what Julian Assange is still likely to get extradited. It's horrendous. The fact that I mean, it's so unjust. It's so unfair. Hillary Clinton, regardless of what you think, whether you think it's her or not, these are people like us wouldn't even be talking about. No one who thinks they're awake in any shape or form would be having these conversations if it wasn't for people like Julian Assange. Sorry about my light keep going. It's that we've got a thunderstorm going and it's literally like black clouds coming over. So if I keep going a funny color, it's because of that. I'm not shape shifting. Not this time anyway. It's too early in the day for me. But this is the thing. It's like there's so many examples. We know what happens to these whistleblowers. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So on all sides of the story, the moral of it, where you're looking at Baltimore, P. Diddy, this is one that we really don't know what's going on. Two, there's a lot still going on. So keep your minds open. And I would say my only word of advice to myself and everyone else watching this is never get to the stage. I think Lara Logan said it, the most dangerous combination is to be arrogant and ignorant. And if you're arrogant enough to think that you know it,
I
you
love that.
are hiding to nothing.
I'm going to use that. Thank you. Laura, you said was her name?
Lara Logan on, I've been following her for ages. She's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Arrogant and ignorant like that. And we're starting to see that a lot. And again, I'm not I'm not trying to sound arrogant. I'm just trying to show some more red flags where I see them. We're seeing that a lot in the truther community.
Yeah.
A lot in the truth where people think they're arrogant, that they know what's going on. So they've gotten to that point of being arrogant, and now they're ignorant to the fact that they're closed-minded, and they're walking right off that cliff.
Yeah.
There, like and this is awful because I'm a vegetarian too, and I don't, but there's this cartoon where they've drawn and put in the newspapers where it's like these cows and the slaughterhouses over there, and one of the cows is saying, "Hey guys, I don't think this is the pastures we think it is," and all the other cows are saying, "Oh, you're crazy. No,
Yeah.
you're crazy." Well, I feel like that's what I feel like the truther community in a lot of ways have gotten to that point where they're walking right into the slaughterhouse because they've been, the best. Always have that discernment, always have that critical thinking, always ground yourself and understand, unless we know for sure it's Kate Middleton, unless obviously that I think that video is AI. I think we all agree that unless we know for sure it was her and she comes out and tells us what's going on, we don't know. We just know something weird is happening and it's
Yeah.
suspicious. And
And that's a red flag that if you're being lied to, there's I can't remember who said it. I think it was Elon Musk or Tucker Carlson. I can't remember. In one of those interviews with people like that, said there has never ever been a case where censorship has been done by the good guys.
Never.
And
Candace Owens has talked about that too.
I am not pretending I know anything. I don't know any more than you guys know. All I know is something is very, very wrong with all of these situations. All I know is that the borders are still open.
Yep.
Certainly in America, certainly with the UK. All I know is that most of our heads of state, politicians, prime ministers, whatever you want to call them, are incredibly controlled and corrupt. And why they're corrupt, I think some will be because family members have been threatened, and some will be because they're evil bastards, excuse my language, and every possible scale in between. But so therefore, for me, I'm not taking anything at face value, and I'm not sitting there not sleeping at night over it, because I have a danger. My personality, I think very much like yours, Brice, is we have a danger to be so empathetic that it can really affect us physically and emotionally. So I can't do anything more about it, but I'm certainly making sure that I never get to the stage where I think I know it.
Right. Right. We are, this is a war. I mean, this is literally half of the world doesn't even know we're in it, but we are in it. And you're right. If it wasn't for good people, and I think that we're the white hats, we're the ones pushing back. We're the ones making a fuss. And it's, before now, 10 years ago, most people now understand what was happening on those islands. 10 years ago, they didn't. Here's another question, Catherine. There's this great 2-part documentary that just dropped on Hulu. I think it was from the A&E network in America, about the interview done with Prince Andrew. And it was great. They talked to the women and what they went through and everything, and it was fascinating.
Wow.
But my friends, Prince Andrew should be sitting in prison in the United States, because again, we don't honor monarchy here. There are no monarchies in America. So
he should, I mean, I don't think they're allowed to be arrested in the UK, but they should. This is the whole point. It's like, please, I hate the saying, Brice, wake up, but it's like, please realize that this is still happening, and it doesn't matter how many people scream that it's illegal for them to be holding Julian Assange, they're still holding him. How many people believe that this is, whether it's legal, whether it's not, it doesn't matter, it's still happening. I mean, come on, guys, who of you watching honestly believes Michelle Obama is a woman?
Right.
And it's nothing to do with the fact, I don't care if she is a man, if she's honest about it. But to make up having 2 children and to be in that position where your whole life is a deception, and you're the one supposedly making decisions for us. I mean, go back to our interview that Brice and I did, which is on both our Rumble channels, with a lady called Kathy. Go and look at that. Read that lady's books. Look at the links. This has been proven. This isn't speculation. And unfortunately, it's still going on, whether we like it or not. So it's just about being aware, because we might not be able to stop it, but we can make it so much more difficult for them, can't we, when we keep
Yeah, we got to continue to make it difficult. We can't be lulled back to sleep thinking that the white hats are in charge. We can't be lulled back to sleep thinking this is all just a movie. We have to continue to say no. We have to continue to be aware. We have to continue to take everything with a grain of salt, including what's coming. And I say this all the time on my channel. I'm a research channel. Check my work.
Yeah.
Do it. I don't take what I take as fact either. Go and do your own research. You know, like was speaking of like the whole man woman thing, I believe Kate Middleton is a woman.
Yeah, I do.
I know a lot of people try to say she's not, but I'll tell you one thing, guys. I'm gonna stand up, see if you guys can see. Of females, your wrist goes below your hip, sits below your hip. So my wrist sits, my hip's right here. The female anatomy, because from what I understand with if you look at just a skeleton, the big indicator between male or female is the pelvic region. Yeah. And natural born females, their wrists sit lower than their hips.
Yeah.
And I checked it with my boyfriend. His sits at his hip.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. So, and I've been looking at pictures because everybody wants to say that's not the problem. Kate's gender is not the problem, you guys. The problem is, where is she? But I do think she's a woman because her wrist hit lower than her hips. She's just a very thin woman. I'm a very thin woman, right? There are a lot of thin women out there that, you know, have to have cesarean sections because their hips don't move.
But I did. And again, you get so much shaming, but I am a woman, I promise you, but I've got very narrow hips. You know, we have a joke in my family that if I was a Labrador, I wouldn't have been allowed to breed. And it's true. So, you know, therefore, I had the easiest pregnancies. Birth was challenged because I do not have childbearing hips at all. And that's not a good thing. We've been made to think it's a good thing. But trust me, when you have a baby, you want childbearing hips. So yeah. I think, you know, with this, even with Michelle Obama, you know, if she was a man and she couldn't come out as one because of the prejudices and everything, that's very sad. But that doesn't explain the lies and the manipulation and making up completely former. You could have been a childless couple and lived like that and no one would have cared, you know, sort of thing. So, and obviously I haven't met her, thank God, and I really don't want to. You know, my friend had a very good that I saw this morning. We were discussing all this, and she had a very good point, because Kate has got Diana's engagement ring. Well, I would not be going near that ring in a million years. I mean,
I wouldn't either. The energy is so good. Oh, yeah.
Known it's an honor, because obviously that's a tradition that loads of families do. However, it's not been a great one for that. So Princess Charlotte, whatever you do, don't put that ring on, you know.
I know. So yeah. And that's the thing too. Like, I know, like as a woman a biological woman who does not have my own children, I still have the ability to care for other children. But I know just my own reaction to my nephews and nieces in this, I think those are biologically her children. So those are her. I mean, they're adorable. I think Charlotte is just the cutest thing. I mean, she's going to be quite a knockout when that little Louis is hysterical. Yeah. You know, a little naughty boy that's so funny. So they bring life to the to the old you know, stuck up royal family when they're doing their kid things. But yeah, that's where our empathy needs to be, you know. I don't, and that's a hard thing, because I don't want it to come across as gossip. All I'm saying is something's wrong. Something is really, really wrong. You know, and I think
it's so dangerous for people saying, you know, we're having a discussion here and we're saying we really don't know. There's all these different possibilities, and everyone watching will come up with loads of other possibilities that we haven't even had a chance to talk about yet. But as we say, the gut feel is something is very wrong, and therefore it's keep your wits about you, everyone, because we have to keep people like Julian Assange. We have to keep people like Kate. We have to keep the conversation going, because they
can't get away with it. Yeah. And why isn't Prince Andrew in prison in America? Like, exactly. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true. Guys, watch that documentary, that 2-part documentary. From what I understand, he can't come to America, because if he comes, he'll be arrested. But if you're saying in the UK, how are we in a world where somebody born to a particular family can't get arrested? Because we know that the United Kingdom will extradite to the United States. We are extraditing countries.
Yeah.
But with the royal family, if the royal family is not allowed to be arrested in the United Kingdom, they can't extradite them to the United States.
And I
So,
don't know. I think I've heard that, but honestly, I'll put my hand up. I don't know what the rules are, what would happen if, because I don't think the thing is everything's always been hidden because they've always
yeah,
controlled the police force and the politicians. And, you know, I mean, look at what's happened to the brave policemen and politicians that do stand up. Oh my goodness. Look at, you know, what's happened to people over the thing. I mean, I will still go back to the whole Vic issue and Andrew Wakefield, and you know, most of my friends still believe he was wrong and he was proven innocent years ago, and what he said was right about these and autism, and yet you're still not allowed to talk about it on social media, and he's still, but the evidence is all out there, and this, unfortunately, no smoke without fire, and mud sticks, and it does, and it goes both ways. But whatever's happened is the guilty people are not being held accountable, and
exactly,
guarantee
exactly,
that P Diddy had a controller that is
exactly,
happy to
exactly.
chuck him under the bus, which he should be if he's done all those things.
Yep.
But the whole point is, no one on Epstein's list has been identified and arrested yet. Hello.
Nope. Nope. Some of them have been identified, but they're not being arrested. And I saw on the docuseries that that when I think it was at the Queen's funeral or so, one of their, where somebody actually shouted at Andrew, like you know, shouted to not call,
Yeah.
name call him basically, and he got arrested for it.
Yes.
Like what? You
Yeah.
know, that's, you know, so we need to be aware. You know, none of Epstein's clients have had anything happen to them. But
Yeah.
yet, look over here at the Kardashians.
Yeah.
Oh, we're all worried about Kate. Let's throw P. Diddy under the bus so they can look at, you know, bread and circus, bread and circus, bread and circus.
And they're already bringing out the fact of Harry was at apparently some of P. Diddy's parties and stuff. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But again, distraction, 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 which does make me think, but I have no way of knowing, it does make me think very differently about Meghan. I don't know, time will tell, but whatever happens, she's managed to extradite him from that situation and their children, which quite frankly is probably a good thing.
Yeah, and a mother, if that's a good point. If a mother needs to be labeled as a narcissistic psychopath by the public in order to keep her children safe, I think any mother, I would do that for my nephew and nieces.
Absolutely.
In
And
a
it might not be the case. I'm not saying whether it is or isn't, but I'm just saying there are different ways to look at this. And I think the more people start opening their minds to different scenarios, the more we might be able to prevent some. There's one person that I've been following for years, and I cannot, please do not, if you're watching this, ask me to put their name in the comments, and I don't want anyone putting the name because you'll get my channel removed. So if you want more information, you can email me. My email's under all the videos. But there's a guy called Ollie Damagard, and he's an absolute expert on false flags. I've been following him for about 10 years. He's incredible. He's got a Patreon. Go and look at some of his stuff. Very telling. It's very hard to get hold, you know, his information because he's banned everywhere. So do not put his name. Anyone asks, who did she say? Don't put it in the comments because I'll have to delete it straight away. Oh, that's one other thing I just wanted to say was we're on here. I keep getting asked about certain natural healing solutions that you all know I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. Please stop putting it in the comments and asking me about it because you'll get my channel taken down. I do not have time to be constantly keeping up. I check comments and I respond to people when I have time, but I can't do it there and then. And you're getting me warnings and things like this. So please, people that are watching our channels, our contact email is below every video. If you need to get hold of us, you can get hold of us on our email addresses. Do not put controversial comment down below.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. Yeah. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault, but I had to do the same thing. There's a couple comments I had to delete because of certain words that were used, like the A word for the drink.
Yeah.
That, guys, if you write that in our comment section, like that will get our channel. Like, you have to be very careful. The P word.
Yeah.
You have to be very, very careful. The words that we can't say,
you can't say in the comments either.
It could take our whole channels down. And I don't want, at some point I thought I might just have to take comments off of my videos, which I don't want to have to do that
because we want this to be a double way interaction. And I completely get why it's confusing for people. But I am going to have to be a lot stricter because I've got a strike on TikTok now for talking about health solutions. They're really clamping down on health solutions and things like that, which also ties in probably to the Prince Charles thing. So please just be careful, because we want it to be a two-way conversation as much as it can be in the comments. And we really want to know your opinions. But if it's something controversial, please just email us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and again, I want to. This isn't y'all's fault. It's a
No.
shitty situation. I wish it wasn't this way, but you just be aware of that. On Rumble, I hardly ever check my Rumble comments, because Rumbles you can put whatever you want, but
Yeah.
but not on unfortunately they're watching that on YouTube. They don't want these channels existing, basically. So
Exactly. Thank you so much, Brice. I've really enjoyed it. I think there'll be lots more discussions on this coming forward. I will put this up on Rumble as well as soon as I get a chance. It's just literally time with the delay, because it does take quite a long while to upload them and get them approved on different panels. It's not a job you can plan, because sometimes they'll approve a video and it will go up quickly, and other times it can take a couple of days.
hours. Yeah.
Or hours. So it just a case of just have to do what we can when we can. So yeah. All right, lovely. Take care. We'll be back on Brice's channel next week. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. My goal is to inspire as many people as I can to live their best lives, to stay curious, and to raise their consciousness and that of the collective. So to do this, I need to reach as many people as possible, and this needs your help. If you feel drawn, would you be willing to share your favourite episode with 5 different people? This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. If you feel drawn to do that, I will be very, very grateful. All the links and discount codes where applicable for all the products that I support are on my 2 websites, CatherineEdwards.life and katemiddleton.com. All of the products are personally tried and tested by me, my family, and my clients. And finally, please do press the follow or subscribe button, depending which platform you're listening on. And above all, stay curious and stay free.